What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Fishing with Tate. Today we're doing a rod and reel arsenal for 2020. This is January 3rd, 4th, something like that. So we're not going to waste any time. We're going to get right into it and kind of let you guys know what I'm going to be throwing for most of this year. And I'm sure it'll probably change over the course of the year, but as of January 2020, this is probably what it's going to look like probably for the rest of the year, for the most part. So if you guys have seen my first one, I'll leave that one linked down below if you haven't. A few of these are going to be the same, but we have made a lot of new additions, especially right here in the last couple of months. Been a lot of good deals going on and a lot of good things that I've capitalized on and added to my collection. So you want to make sure to stay tuned because not all these are going to be the very exact same as last year. But before we go on any farther, I do want to say that I'm going to leave a lot of these linked down below. Be sure to go check them out down there. I'm not trying to sell you any of these, but if you do decide that you want to try them out, then you can easily check those out down below and kind of help the channel out too. So we're going to talk about these rod and reels right here. And I'm going to show you something else I'm going to link down below. Something that I've just recently bought right before Christmas, and it has been awesome. And that is this thing right here. So this is a Cast King, and it's pretty much just a rod holder. And I've never had one of those. Actually, I've lied. I actually do have one of those, or I've had a couple of these. But it was like this, kind of like you buy from, that one's actually a Field and Stream. But those, I just don't like how they're made. They're super hard sometimes to get those rods in there that have a bigger diameter. But this one right here is super easy to use. Cast King. Again, I'll leave that linked in the description below. Without further ado, guys. Oh, I almost forgot. Guys, we hit 400 subscribers. We did it. We hit 400 subscribers. Honestly, didn't think it could be done by the end of the year, but we did it. I kept saying I thought we could do it, but honestly, I didn't know if we could do it or not, but we did it. And I am so grateful to each and every one of you. It's been a great year. 2019 was a great year, but I've got a lot of goals for 2020, and I really think that we can do some great things on YouTube in 2020. So I'm looking forward to it. And guys, we'll grow this channel together. I'm so excited. But anyway, let's quit talking, get into the rods and reels, and kind of show you guys what I have accumulated over 2019. Well, folks, I just did this video, and I put the camera a little bit too far away from me, and I couldn't tell how focused I was in the whole frame. So I'm having to do this video again because I was so blurry, and I'm not going to put you all through that. I want to make this a decent video, decent rod and reel arsenal video. And I got you a little bit closer this time, so if you feel like you're too close, I'm going to try to just give you a good shot. Good up close and personal shot right there. Up first is this rod and reel right here. Now this is a new one. This is the Shimano Metanium MGL, and I did a review over this reel, guys. I'll leave it linked in the description below. Great reel, great reel. This is actually a 7.4-to-1. And this rod, if I don't break it, this rod right here is actually the Poison Adrena. This is actually like a collaboration rod between Jackal and Shimano. And I've actually, if you watch one of my most recent videos, I've actually caught a fish on this rod. And super sensitive and extremely light. It's so light that it's kind of wild, honestly. Especially with this Metanium on there, which pretty much weighs nothing. I actually have two of these combos, the exact same combo. On the other one, I have an 8.5-to-1. I believe the Metanium MGL, and just together I really like that combo because it just creates a really light total setup. So I'll probably throw probably like 15-pound fluoro on this rod. On this one I may throw more moving baits instead of the 8.5-to-1, which I'll probably use for like maybe small Texas rigs or maybe even like a 3/8 ounce jig. But I may also use like 30-pound braid on one of these as well. So just a great combo, guys. And that is number one. That is kind of a new one. I just started you guys off with a new one. So some of these will be the same as 2019, if I haven't already told you that. But a lot of them are going to be different just because I bought a lot of new rods and reels. Number two. Let's go down the line. Here's also a new one for you all. This is a brand new one. Get focused there. There we go. This is also a new rod that I picked up just this year at the end of 2019. And what I got tied on here is probably not what I'll always throw on it. But it actually handled it pretty well. This is a Lew's Jerkbait special rod. And I'm not going to be able to show you the entire rod. But the most important characteristic of this rod is this right here. This is the pistol grip. Of course, it's got the wind grip on there. And the whole idea behind this is that it makes working jerkbaits easier. So when you're popping that rod, you don't have as much handle kind of slapping you up against the forearm or your elbow, and it just really makes it easier to work. You're using smaller muscle groups working that rod, and it's not wearing you out as fast. So it's honestly, it's a game changer as far as jerkbait fishing for me. Jerkbait has never been something that I really like to throw, but this right here is something that has made it a lot more pleasurable to throw because I know that they catch fish. I got a Corrado G series on there. That's kind of an older Corrado. And on this, I actually got mono on here right now. I'll probably actually change that over to fluorocarbon, probably like 12-pound fluorocarbon or so. And this is actually a 7:1 gear ratio. Some people like it a little bit slower. You kind of just have to figure out with jerk baits, like, or even like baits that you walk, like a spook or something, which I'll probably also use this for, maybe like a spook junior. You kind of have to figure out when you're just taking up that slack, kind of what your cadence is, or you know what you prefer. You know, because essentially with jerk baits and topwater walking baits, you're just going to be reeling up slack as you pop it, so you kind of have to just get used to what you want to do. But guys, this is a game changer. This is actually a 6'7", and it's rated up to 3/4 of an ounce, and I've thrown some pretty good sized jerk baits on it, and it's really, really good. So it's like it's a medium rod with a mod fast action. When you're reeling, oh god, so when you're reeling those fish in with those treble hooks in their mouth, it has a little bit of give. That way you're not going to be yanking those things out of their mouth. So pretty cool little rod. Definitely something you guys should look into, seriously, because this thing is, if you never used one of these, it's honestly a game changer. Another new rod right here, and you guys can't really see it that well. It's going to be impossible to show you the full length of all these rods. This, let's just start with the reel. This is a Corrado 8.5-1. And this is a new Dobbins Champion. This is actually the 765 flip. And this is probably my meat stick. This is going to be like my meat stick going forward. So I'll probably use this for like some punching maybe. Or just, you know, throwing heavier Texas rigs, jigs, what have you, in really thick cover. So 765 flip with Dobbins. So that's a 7'6", 5 power. That's kind of how they number their models. This rod handles up to 2 ounces based on what it's rated for. I'm also looking forward to using this rod in situations that I could have used it in before. A lot of the lakes around here have a lot of thick cover, so this is going to be, it's going to be huge. But it is a medium heavy with a fast action. But it is the flipping stick. A lot of people like to use these for throwing heavier baits, like even A-rigs, umbrella rigs, or bigger topwater baits. So that could also be a secondary technique. I'll probably honestly only use braid on this, probably like 50 to 65 pound braid, because I will primarily be using this for heavy cover and like heavy baits. So that's probably what I'll be doing with this right here. Up next, guys, this is kind of one we've had for a little while. This is actually a G Loomis NRX right there. And I'll try to remember to tell you guys all the line and stuff I use on these typically. This is actually the 894C jig worm rod, rated up to 3/4 of an ounce. I found that G Loomis is pretty dead on with their weight ratings, but I would say that a 1/2 ounce is probably where this thing really shines. This is a 7'5" heavy rod with a fast action. I really like it if you're flipping and pitching like a 1/2 ounce Texas rig or jig. You could probably also get away with something a little bit heavier, 5/8 or something with a trailer on it. Again, this is a Corrado K. If you guys haven't seen my review on the Corrados, make sure to go check it out. I kind of give you a reason why you may not want to buy the Corrado. It's like 2 years old now, and it's still a really popular reel. But overall, you know, I feel like I give a pretty good review on it. So I'll probably leave that down in the description below, so I'll be sure to check that out. But again, this is a 8.5-1. And I will probably run anywhere from 17 to 20 pound fluoro on this, or anywhere from like 50 to 65 pound braid, depending on the kind of cover that I'm going to be fishing. So that is that setup. If you guys are enjoying this, make sure to let me know that down in the comment section below. Thought about doing like going through all my tackle. If you guys like to see that, let me know that too. All right, guys, here's another one. This, you guys know I love Dobbins. This is another Dobbins Champion. It's actually a 703. This rod is actually really, it's kind of it's one of those do-it-all rods, and I have a ton of those. This is a 7-foot 3-power rod. It's considered to be a medium heavy with a fast tip. I really like it for throwing like chatterbaits, spinner baits. I got a little soft body swim bait there, and I honestly like it for about anything. Texas rigs, lighter Texas rigs. You know, even the 3/8 ounce jig, I think I've thrown on this before with a trailer, you know, a small trailer. I have a 7:1 gear ratio reel on here. Again, since it's a very versatile rod, I have a very versatile gear ratio on my reel right here. So this is one of the old Corrado G series, and I usually throw about 15-pound fluoro on there. I found that I probably use 15-pound fluoro probably more than any other pound test line or type of line. That's kind of that. Actually need some line on there. But all right, let's see what's up next. Now here's a rod that, you know, I really don't know where. I don't know if you can get these still unless you get them secondhand off someone. But this is a Cabela's XML bass rod. This is actually a 7'4" heavy with like a fast tip on it. It has a good tip for working a frog. And you guys have probably seen me use this early on in my channel. I don't know if I've used it a lot lately, but this is primarily my frogging rod, and it has a really, really good tip for working a frog. I usually always run somewhere between 50 and 65-pound braid. Everybody was on a big kick for a while about 65-pound braid, but I've actually started kind of using 50 a little bit more. This is a 7.5-to-1 reel. As fast as you can get for frogs is great. This is actually a Lew's LFS speed spool, and I've had these for a few years, and they've actually been really good reels. Kind of starting to wear down just a little bit, like just small things, like the performance of the reel is good, but like the little Lew's decal sticker thing came off, which is fine, but it's honestly done really well. I really don't care much for the handles, but I put some of those grips on there, which are pretty cool. It's the first time I really tried those out here in the last month or so. Kind of dig those pretty good. Plus, it looks pretty good. I mean, look at that. Green, you know. I mean, that counts for something. A lot of people pick the rods based on how they look. I don't go that far. I do kind of like my colors to match, but that is my frogging setup. All right, here is something I don't do a whole lot of, but I mean, I'm going to show it to you anyway because this is, I usually have it tied on. This is a Duckett White Ghost cranking stick. It's actually a medium power cranking stick. Actually has a lot of bend there, as you guys can see. That way you don't pull the treble hooks out of anything's mouth while you're fighting it back to the boat. A lot of people like those moderate fast tips on rods when you're using any kind of treble hook bait, really. Got a little 3XD on there right now with a bait pack. You guys definitely need to check those out if you haven't. And I actually have a Pro Qualifier on here. This thing is about ready to bite the dust. I actually got that on eBay from someone a long time ago. It was old when I got it. It's still old, getting older, and it really is on its last legs. The drag's starting to slip just a little bit, and it's not working quite as well. But I usually run like anywhere from 10 to 12 pound fluorocarbon line. Usually about 12 pound fluorocarbon line on these baits here. So I'll show you this one here. This is a 735, 7'3", 5-power rod, medium heavy with an extra fast tip. It's rated up to 1.5 ounces. I wouldn't take it that far, but this is honestly a rod that gets a lot of abuse from me. Like, I use it literally for everything. This is the recommended techniques for this rod: frogs, pitching, flipping, small swim baits. That like covers everything. Like this rod will literally do anything that you need it to do. This is the 735 Champion Dobbins. And on this, I also have a 8.5-to-1 Corrado K. And on this, I think I have 15-pound fluoro, or sometimes I'll put like 30-pound braid on it as well. But again, none of those 15-pound fluoro reels. This thing literally does everything. I can't tell you one thing because it does everything. Texas rigs, jigs, spinner baits, chatter baits, just whatever you need, okay? Whatever you need, this will do it for you. Is it ideal for all of those? Maybe not, but it would definitely do a good job on all those techniques. So, on to the next one. And guys, this is my first Finesse setup that you guys are seeing right here. This is actually a new one. I've not fished with it a whole lot. Fished with it, but I've never caught anything on it yet. This is a Conquest, a G Loomis Conquest. It's a 842S SJR, 7-foot fast, medium. So I'm assuming it's a medium with a fast tip, and it's rated up to 1/2 ounce. So this rod is going to be kind of my primary Finesse setup rod and reel. This is a Symmetry 2500, Shimano Symmetry. Don't know if you can really find those much anymore, but I'm also running 8-pound fluoro on that, and that's usually pretty typical of what I run on these reels for my Finesse setup, for like shaky heads, Ned rigs, etc. I just love the look of this rod, and I feel like it's just going to be awesome. I know it's super sensitive, so as far as like how it performs, I can't really tell you because I haven't used it a whole lot, but I'm really excited to use this Conquest. It's going to be my primary finesse setup going forward. So I really like this rod, and I also really love this reel. I don't have any really high-end spinning reels because it's not something I really, actually something that I've kind of done more this year, but not something that I really enjoy doing quite as much. But I could see myself buying a higher end spinning reel coming this year probably. So guys, up next we have this guy right here. This is another Lew's LFS right here. And this little reel right here has been really good. I usually throw like 12 to 15 pound fluoro on this one as well. And this is a 7.5 to 1. And I've got this on a Shimano Crucial. It's a 6'10" medium heavy power rod with a fast action, rated up to 1/2 ounce. I'll throw lighter spinner baits on this, or I really like this for like soft swim baits, like a little Kitech or something. And I just really think that this rod performs well with that. And the reel, again, these are my first Lew's reels I've really ever had, and I've really had no complaints about them. They've really done really well. So probably should try some more Lew's reels, because I'm really satisfied with how these do. So the Shimano Crucial and Lew's LFS. So since we just got off the Finesse setup, this is the Dobyns Champion 703. This is a medium power fast action rod, and this has been what I've used for pretty much most of my finesse techniques, other than like maybe a drop shot. And this is actually the Sedona 2500 Shimano Sedona. I'll be throwing about 8 pound fluoro on this reel as well. So yeah, I mean, this has been the go-getter for me. But now it's kind of been moved to my secondary finesse setup. All right, next. This rod right here, when I first got it, I did not catch any fish on it for a very long time. And that's kind of hard to believe now, because I've caught a ton of fish on it this year. And that is the Dobyns 745 Champion Extreme. This thing, I can't say enough good about this thing. I really love this rod. You know, I use some pretty high-end rods, and I mean, this is not a cheap rod by any means. For me personally, this rod here is like a $300 range rod, and it will compete with those rods that's in the $500 range. So I really love the Champion Extreme 745. This is a medium heavy rod with like a fast action, rated up to 1.5 ounces, and it's just a really, really good rod. I actually got a 7.2 on here right now. I'll probably up that to like an 8.5 to 1 of those Corrados or something. Honestly, I kind of just mix my reels and rods up throughout the year. I don't really have one that I prefer, but I probably will put something a little bit faster on this. I usually like faster reels on my bottom baits or like frogging, just because, you know, if I make a bad cast, I can reel it up real quick and get back in there. If I just see one blow up, or if I'm bed fishing and I throw it in there a bad cast, I can back it back out and just make a good cast. Just get back in there as quickly as possible, be efficient with my time. This would probably be fine as well, but I'll probably just prefer somewhere in the 8 range. For anything I'll throw on this rod, it'd probably be like 17 to 20 pound fluorocarbon. And I'll primarily be throwing like jigs and Texas rigs. This rod really shines in that 1/2 ounce weight range, but definitely one of my favorites right there. This rod right here is the Shimano Zodius 7'2", medium heavy, rated up to 1 ounce. And this thing, can't say enough good about it. This is like my chatterbait, spinnerbait go-to right here. That's pretty much about all I throw on it. I've thrown Texas rigs on it and it's done fine, but this is my spinnerbait, chatterbait rod, honestly. And I got a Shimano Sitica on there. It's a 7.2 to 1, which I think is probably perfect for me for chatterbaits, spinnerbaits, and stuff. And just a really great overall rod. Looks super cool. I love the Zodius rods. Here's a new setup that I've got. This is actually a Shimano X-Pride. If you guys can see that right there. Shimano X-Pride. Never used one before. They've been out for a little while, but I've just recently picked one up. This is actually a 7'2", medium heavy, rated up to 1 ounce. And I actually got a 6.2 to 1 gear ratio reel on there, which I could change out probably. With that ratio, I'll probably be throwing something like a spinnerbait, chatterbait, something moving. And depending on what I'm going to throw, I'm going to probably change the reel out. But that's another Corrado K, and of course they're great reels. So X-Pride, don't really have much to say about it. Never even fished with it. I've had it for about a month or so. Super excited to try it out though, because a lot of people have a lot of good things to say about these rods. This is my favorite jig rod. This is the NRX 873 CRR. And it's actually designed to throw Carolina rigs. So it's really designed for dragging, which honestly I think makes it great for a jig worm rod. And this is primarily my 3/8 ounce rod. It really shines in that 3/8 ounce weight. It's just my favorite jig rod, and I love throwing a 3/8 ounce jig on this rod. Got a Corrado K on there, 8.5 to 1. I actually got some 50-pound braid on there, and of course, you know, according to the situation I'm fishing, I might well switch it out to fluorocarbon. Something like 17 to 20 pound fluorocarbon. But this is a great setup right here. My favorite jig worm rod. On to the next one. This is a new one, guys, and it's another Dobbins. I'll go ahead and tell you that. But it's something different than what I've ever had before. This is actually a swimbait rod. This is the 795 Dobbins Champion swimbait rod. And this thing is rated from like 1 to 5 ounces. But this rod is a medium heavy, fast action. One of the secondary techniques that I found a lot of people like to use it for is actually throwing A-rigs on there. And that's an A-rig right there. And it actually, that's probably what I'm going to primarily use this for. Of course, I'll throw some swim baits on it, and I've thrown some different swim baits on it. But it's really done really good with that A-rig right there. And this is a Shimano Tranx. The 5.8 gear ratio. When you're pulling something with this much resistance, or the resistance of a big swim bait, you got to have something that can handle the drag on the reel. And the Tranx was just something that, you know, you can't find anything bad about it. Everybody loves it, and I've had a really good time throwing it. I've got like 50-pound braid on there. This is kind of my big new setup that I'm excited about. So you guys are definitely probably going to be seeing me throw that A-rig around. But guys, that's about it. All right, next up, guys, we have a 7'10" Quantum KVD Signature Series cranking stick. This thing is actually rated up to 1 ounce. This is just a, when I first bought this rod, I didn't have a rod over like 7'2", and this thing just has a lot of bend in it. Really loads up, casts those baits a long way, because you really want to get a lot of casting distance on those big crankbaits. This thing right here is, I've thrown some big crankbaits on this, like 5, 6XDs. Overall, just a great rod. I don't have a reel on it right now, but I would probably prefer something in the 5 range, maybe low 6 range, but definitely probably a 5 something to 1 gear ratio would be best. But guys, just a great overall rod for cranking, and one that hopefully I'll get to use a little bit more this year. Up next, guys, we have this one right here. This right here is a Bass Pro Shops cranking stick. It's actually a 7'10" medium heavy. And it handles, according to the rating, up to 1.5 ounces. So I'm really going to be throwing like bigger crankbaits on this. Probably like 6XD, maybe up to 8XD. I don't know if it can handle that, maybe. But I never really throw anything over 6XD, honestly. Got this on a 5.5 to 1 Corrado. It's one of the OG series, like some of the other ones I've showed you there, with about 12-pound fluorocarbon line on here. But a lot of times I'll use anywhere from 10 to 12. According to how deep I want to get that bait. I usually just use 12, which is what most companies assume when they put their depths on there. So like if you see something that says it dives to this depth, it's usually assuming that you're using 12-pound fluorocarbon line. Guys, that's about it right there. I actually got 2 honorable mentions in here I'm going to run through real quick. Whoops. This is a Abu Garcia Vengeance rod. This is the first casting rod that I've ever used. It's a 6'6" medium heavy with a fast action. This thing is honestly amazing for like going to ponds and like frogging at ponds and stuff like that. When I go to a pond, I usually have this thing somewhere around. This was the first one I ever bought, and I actually bought a Black Max to put right on it. So I started out really cheap, but fishing does get very expensive if you get in too deep. Like me. And last but not least, guys, what started it all? A good old Zebco 33. Now these probably ain't as durable as the old ones. A lot of people love the old ones better, but these, a good old Zebco, I'll definitely keep this somewhere close. That's probably not what you showed up to see here on this video, but it's definitely something that I have to mention because I use it quite a bit, especially catching bluegill and panfish. But that's definitely something that's always going to be around for me. A good old spin cast Zebco 33. But guys, I appreciate you subscribing, and I thanks so much for watching the video. I know this is probably a pretty long video, but that is my rod and reel arsenal going into 2019. Not all my rods or reels, but that is the ones I plan to use the most. So guys, if you haven't already, make sure to comment down below. Let me know what kind of rods and reels that you use, what you think about my arsenal, what do you think I should add, or what do you think I have too much of. And, you know, just let me know what you think overall down there, guys. So, guys, until next time, this is my 2020 rod and reel arsenal. Now let's put it to use.